I want to take you guys to the idea of luxury beliefs. It's a term that was coined by one Rob Henderson, and it is a belief that one holds and often proselytizes that is generally held by the elites of today. Because you generally are financially immune, or you have the physical distance to separate yourself from the enactment of the idea and the consequences thereof. Examples include, hey, defund the police. When you live in a gated community in Bel Air with private armed guards, it doesn't immediately affect you when they begin to loot stores, destroy small businesses in the inner city, carjack innocent Uber drivers, and human beings' behavior molded and shaped by the lack of disincentives start shoplifting and attacking innocent people, and the lawlessness starts to grow like a cancer.
Everything you got.
No. You sit here and yell how we need to abolish the police because you have the luxury to not be affected by the bankrupt ideas that are escaping your lips. But then you start to see the effects personally, like leftist activist Josh Kruger, who was shot dead in his own home just the other day in Philadelphia. The same guy who had like 1,000 tweets defending no bail when it came to Philadelphia criminals and laughed uproariously and mocked January 6thers who were held without trial for years at a time, who applauded the continual flood of criminals being released back out onto the streets. George Soros, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, Larry Page, they can all afford to hire former Army Rangers and Navy SEALs to provide protection for their families. Useful idiots and foot soldiers of the leftists do not have that same luxury. This is the end result of all the Soros DAs that we have promoted around the nation. Another very obvious belief, we are a sanctuary city.
We definitely are a sanctuary city, and we will continue to be that.
Our responsibility as a city, I'm proud that this is a right to shelter state, and we're going to continue to do that.
We are a sanctuary city.
It's very, very easy to espouse those words when you're 1,000 miles away from the southern border. It's so easy to say sanctuary city, but when they suddenly show up on your doorstep and you are the one asked to house them, to pay for them. And by the way, those illegals that are registered in the system are getting money from the federal government. Your taxpayer money that could be going to infrastructure or healthcare. How much? $2,200 a person. And juxtapose that to those who paid into the system their whole life and have managed to reach the ripe old age where they are able to collect Social Security. They get $1,400 a month. Interesting, huh? But hey, it's not money that the average American sees immediately coming out of their pocket because they just silently printed up trillions of dollars, creating inflation, resulting in much higher prices for you when you go to the grocery store, and piling it on top of the massive wall of debt that will at some point in the future collapse and crush the average citizen. And let me further juxtapose this against a couple of facts. My wife, a beautiful Canadian woman, entering into the United States with me, with her American son, our son, got booted out of the country. We were given 3 months and we had to do the green card from somewhere else because they thought that we were entering into the country with the intent to immigrate. And here they set up everybody with $2,200 per month checks while they boot a productive member of the society, and we basically haven't been back since. Meanwhile, when I was traveling the globe, which I've done fairly extensively, I've been to 60 countries, I would almost always stay in a private room in somebody's house, either couch surfing or an Airbnb room for $10 to $30 a night. And I did so in an effort to save money. And here they are, setting up immigrants in hotel rooms in New York City for $300 to $500 a night, and moving U.S. Army veterans from their residences in an effort to make way. 95-year-old men who had fought in the Korean War getting the boot for illegal immigrants from their nursing homes. Yeah, because the government is telling you who's more important.
You gotta be out by March 15th. I think that gave us like a month and a half to find out where we're gonna go.
So how do you guys think that anybody like me who's been fiscally conservative, who's saved his money his entire life, who's gone without the luxuries, feels about these virtue signaling MFers pooling money from my pocketbook, from your pocketbook, in an effort to spend it on their virtue signaling cause? And then suddenly, when they realize the effects that everybody predicted, change their minds in an instant. These are stupid people, aren't they? Democratic Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker on Monday called on President Biden to take swift action to address the federal government's lack of intervention and coordination at the southern border. Pritzker, in a letter to the 80-year-old president demanding federal assistance, said the influx of migrants has created an untenable situation for Illinois. Well, y'all should have thought about that before you declared yourself a sanctuary state. Virtue signal and find out, motherfucker. So should we put great faith in their far-sightedness? Should we trust their intelligence that they profess to have in spades? The same exact people that demand leniency for repeat violent offenders, these criminals, be let out back onto the street until they carjack the communist activist Democrat in Minnesota in front of her children and beat her. And now, after that, she realizes that maybe on this one specific subject, I might have been wrong, or that Henry Cuellar, the far-left Democrat who's a representative in Washington, was carjacked right by K Street, right by the Capitol last night. Should I feel sorry for them? Oh, but now you have a different perspective, even after we begged you to come back to a place of sanity, when we told you over and over again what would happen, yet you dismissed us as a bunch of bigoted deplorables. These are pretty much the same exact people that insisted that everybody be injected with an mRNA experimental vaccine, even after it was proven that it didn't prevent transmission to other people. And they doubled down on the children and continued to advocate that a 5-year-old be injected with this, even though it's all risk and no reward for them. And they want us to continue to listen to what they have to say with this track record. And now let's go ahead and look at the luxury belief of the trans situation. Do you not think that in 10 years, after chopping and mutilating children who you've sexually confused and groomed into this, that they won't be suing the pants off of doctors and advocates? That is, if they don't take up arms. What do you think is most likely to come to pass? And next up on the luxury belief agenda, climate change lockdowns. Because you know what's best. Just like my buddy who makes $250,000 and living in Los Angeles, who once told me that he hopes that gas goes up to $10 a gallon to discourage driving, not giving a damn what happens to the gardener who's coming to his house with a fully loaded truck, just scraping by, trying to make a living. The same people that refuse to build nuclear reactors, which deliver clean, reliable energy, because wind and solar are more in vogue amongst your peers. Like Germany, which mothballed its nuclear plants, raising its reliance on Russian gas, and now with Nord Stream 2 at the bottom of the ocean, in an effort to keep their economy afloat and their citizens warm during the winter, they've reopened dirty coal plants, thus in fact raising their greenhouse emissions after their luxury beliefs imploded upon them. Like Communist Canada announcing just the other day that they would do all they can to eliminate natural gas from their industries, to lessen greenhouse gas emissions, while an inflationary spiral befalls the country, for which the Liberal government is blaming grocery stores for the rising prices. These elites, these people that can afford to have these luxury beliefs, are certainly willing to sacrifice today's poor at the altar of climate change for some theoretical possible change in the future that these Nostradamuses assure us will take place.
How dare you!
Just like they assured us that the Defund the Police movement will lead to nirvana. Just as they espoused the luxury belief of being a sanctuary city, and that all of us dirty deplorables were too stupid to even have the right to question it, or that we were conspiracy theorists worthy of having our voice muted on social media. The question that I have is, why is the US population continually voting these people in over and over again? The same people that want a two-tiered justice system, one for the oppressed population, where they are allowed to commit assault, shoplift, break into cars. But if an Uber driver in San Francisco parks illegally while picking up a passenger, well, here's a $200 ticket for you. Oh, and by the way, Mr. Uber driver, make sure to pay your city and state tax too. Don't worry about it, buddy. We'll take it right out of your paycheck and save you the headache of sending it to us. And yet they continue to propagandize you, to convince you how much smarter they are than you. And that you, little deplorable, get no say in how the country is run. You shouldn't even have a voice. And let's give them tremendous credit here. Using the algorithm of social media, using the Google search engine, using the media, they're able to hypnotize just enough people that the other side are the villains for getting in the way of their progressive, virtue signaling, luxury belief agenda. And when their policies are demonstrated to be bankrupt, admit that maybe, just maybe, they can shift 5% back to the center to appease their constituents momentarily. And then for a moment you'll relax and you'll say, ah, finally sanity. And moments later, these ideologues will shift back into the batshit crazy gear until they're finished destroying the United States, which frankly I believe is the dream and goal for many of them. And one day, the foot soldiers of Team Blue, like Josh Kruger, who I mentioned earlier, the activist shot dead in his own Philadelphia residence, will awaken to the sound of breaking glass and criminals screaming into their homes, and suddenly realize that they're in fact living in a dystopian nightmare where luxury beliefs have become the law of the land. But good news, don't worry about the elites who made it so. They've either fled the country to one where there's still sanity, or are living behind the high-walled gates of Bel Air, having their food delivered via drone. And you, my friends, are the ones who pay the price as they live in their sanctuary, still demanding that you give up your freedoms, your livelihood, your money, and if need be, your life, sacrificed at the altar of their ego and luxury beliefs.